Welcome back to video number 4. We're gonna be doing a skin faded Euro hawk on my boy Daniel here. All right. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna thoroughly saturate all the hair down. All right, the most important thing with these faux hawks is symmetry. You got to make sure right out of the gate that these things are level, because if you don't, what can happen is you can have the hawk shifting over here or shifting over here. So it's really important right out of the gate that you get these part lines symmetrical and even. I'm going to start right here on the point of recession, and I'm just going to start to section this out for the hawk. All right, so once you get the one side done, you want to jump over here and do the other side. I'm just going to clean this up a little bit more. Very important to keep these things nice and clean. All right, this is done on that side, so we'll just spin them over here. Now you could do this one of two ways. Sometimes I've seen guys that'll section this out and they'll do one side at a time, or you can just section them both out and get them done. That way you're making sure that you're not overly cutting an area. If you section the side out, cut it, and then it be lopsided, then you're in a conundrum there. So I'm gonna get both sides done. That way I don't have to worry about having an uneven hawk. If they have cowlicks in their hair, like, it will give you a little bit of trouble parting through them, but just emphasis on making sure these parts are really clean. All right, so from that point forward, I got this thing pretty well sectioned out. I'm gonna throw some clips in there just to make sure nothing gets in the way. We don't get none of this good hair on the top. Okay, so once you have your top hair all sectioned out from the side hair here, this is when you're now going to progress to your next step. You should have a finished product similar to this when you're done. You can kind of see the shape of the hawk already kind of starting right down the center here. These suspenders here, we're going to fade those out and get rid of them. But this is your hawk hair, if you will. All right, next, I'm going to grab my clipper comb and my clipper, and I'm going to start right here on the side I began on for no reason, just because. And I'm just going to start building my foundation. Right. I've noticed for me being right-handed and working on his right side, I have to switch hands when I work my way to the back of the hawk, and that's pretty normal. So just make sure that if you do have to switch hands, that you feel comfortable with the clipper before you do it, because it can be an awkward move, if you will, utilizing going from right hand to left hand with the clipper. But again, you know, I mean, trying to do this right-handed, it just, you can't get the clipper comb right, and you can cause yourself some bind up and that you really don't want to mess with. Okay, so I roughly got this side down. I'm going to jump over here on this side now, and I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna start taking this down, and I'm matching my guide every time I cut. So you can see I pull it out, stop short of my guide, and then I connect it. Come in, there's my guide, connect it. And again, same thing here, connecting it to my guide. I'm just starting to really give this hawk some shape. All right, cool. So from this point, I'm gonna move into the skin fade on the side. The fade isn't like your standard fade. It doesn't wrap around the head in like a horizontal. It actually kind of curves. So again, just starting it like any other fade that I would normally do. Setting my line there on the eye socket. And I'm just gonna start working my way around here. Starting to curve the line, fold his ear back here, and then just making sure that I'm not getting too far up into the bulk of the hair here, because I gotta remember it's gotta be faded out. I personally would recommend that you finish one side before you jump to the other, just so you're not making a bunch of different moves, and you can, you know, just hone in on fading out one side. Especially if you're newer to barbering and you know, you just don't want to overwhelm yourself. Just work on one side at a time. So you notice how it's got a curve to it, and it's just going to be the same thing with the fade as I work up. I'm going to now go to my clipper fully open, about a ½ an inch up. I'm using the corner of my clippers a lot for this. Half closed, fully closed. I'm going to grab my half guard. And again, same step, fully open, about halfway up. You may have heard this fade referred to as a burst fade. And what they mean by burst fade, imagine the center of the fade starting here. It's literally bursting like a sun. So that's kind of the concept. So halfway closed on my half guard. If you notice here, I'm kind of stopping short of the back of the tail of the fade, if you will. And I do that because if you keep running the zones at the same length to the back there, you won't have the tail. So the fade ends right here toward the back of the fade. So my next card, we're gonna grab a 1 and then just a 1/2 inch up here as well. Okay, I'm half closed now, going halfway up the zone I just created. And now I'm fully closed. Now I'm gonna grab my 1.5. Again, I'm just gonna about 1/2 inch up, and then I'm just working there toward the top of my baseline that I created. This is starting to take shape now. Halfway closed. Fully closed. Okay. Now, I'll take just this ridge that's left over. I like to clean that up with clipper over comb. So I got this little ledge right here. I'm gonna come in with my clipper over comb and pull it out to my baseline under there. You see where I pulled it out to? I'm just gonna get rid of that excess out there. And I got my clipper fully closed as I'm doing this too. Okay, cool. So I feel good about this side. I'm gonna clean up a little bit of density real quick. I see some dark spots. If you look real closer, these are divots in his head. So you wanna make sure with fading that if you see dark spots, it very well could just potentially be a divot. And the best way to get those dark spots out and those divots is just go a 1/2 size lower than what you were. So we got 1/2, 1, and 1.5 zone. So we know that right there is a 1, and same with there. So I'm gonna put my 1 guard on here and blend that out of there. Just dig it down a little bit. Just immediately it'll start lightening that up. Okay, cool. So this side is rough sketchily done. We're gonna bounce over to the other side, do the same thing. Once we get to our next step of the polishing phase, we'll get through that and then move on. So again, I'm gonna repeat what I did on the other side on this side. I'll start my line on the eye socket. I'm gonna start the curve again. I'm gonna check this real quick to make sure this fade looks even. Looks good. Grab my clipper, start again. I got clipper fully open. Halfway closed. I'll then grab my half and just go up to my next step. And you notice again how I mentioned on the other side, I'm stopping short of the back of the tail here. I'm halfway closed, fully closed. All right, now I got my 1 guard and I'm going about 1/2 inch up again. All right, I'll grab my 1.5. And then again, about a 1/2 inch up. I've found when I'm doing these hawks, I always have like a strong side. And it's the side that I know that I don't have to flip the comb like I was mentioning on the other side. The opposite of that side, his left, is gonna be my strong side. And that's just maybe because I'm not flipping the comb. I'm pretty confident that that's part of the correlation, but it is pretty normal for you to have a strong side. So if you feel like one of your sides just looks better or you do better, it's usually the case. And it doesn't mean anything bad, it just means that you worked stronger off that side. Fully closed. All right, now that I got my 1.5, I'm gonna take my clipper comb and I'm just gonna get rid of this last little bit of this edge here. I'm being sure to like bring this in nice and tight because I don't want it to be square, like super like flaring out. I want to tighten this thing in. Just getting rid of that little bit of that fender and just bringing it in. All right, when you're finished with your side, make sure you take a moment to clean up any dark spots that you might see. See a little bit right here in the top zone. So again, I'm gonna throw my 1 on. I'm just gonna clean this up just a little bit, get rid of those dark spots. All right, so from this point forward, we are about ready to start cutting the top. Cool. So we got our sides done, rough cut, and now we're gonna work on our top. Pull these out, and starting right in the middle of the head, I'm gonna start a guide. And the goal with these hawks is to attempt to maintain the same length from the front to the back. Obviously, I'll leave the fringe a little bit longer, but from like the central apex area to the back of this area, I like to leave like the same length. It got to like be a hawk length. So let's get this guide started. And just following my guide that I created, I'm gonna work my way all the way to the back. When I get here to the bottom of the nape area and I'm trying to get this, instead of sitting here trying to twist my body in contortion, I'm gonna simply just move here. I'm gonna grab the hair and I'm gonna cut downwards into my palm. That way I can get all that hair at the bottom of this hawk in here and I don't risk not getting it and overexerting my body and my shoulders and everything trying to get it. All right, cool. So now that we have our guide from the top center to the back, we're now gonna match our guide. I'm gonna start on my right side. Doesn't matter, you can start on left or right. And so you just pick up and there's your guide here in the middle, and I'm just gonna match. Again, I've mentioned this in other videos, I don't like to keep it super square. I like to give a little bit of an angle to take the squareness out of this cut. So there's your guide, and I'm cutting it at a little bit of an angle here and matching up to my guide there in the center. Guide, angle, take that corner out. Same thing, I'm just gonna do this all the way back. There's that corner, and again, start back up here at the top. And you'll notice as I'm getting toward the back here, I'm changing hand positions too. Going from cutting like this over to cutting into my palm again. Just be careful when you're cutting into your palm. Don't cut past this second knuckle right here if you can. Try to avoid it because you increase cut risk substantially once you do that. All right, so now that the hair has been cut to the desired length that I want on the top to the back, I'm now gonna match the length to the side. The easiest way to do this, the way I do it, is I'll just pull this all over here to either the left or right. So whichever one you prefer to start on. Be sure to keep the hair damp because as it's been sectioned up for a while, it tends to like to dry out, and dry hair changes the consistency, the elasticity of it changes, so be sure to keep it a little damp while you're cutting. I'm gonna section out the fringe here, so I'm gonna start right here at the front of the ear and I'm gonna pull this all out of the way. And you can do this one of two ways. I like to pull it all over, and I like to grab my clipper comb with the clipper halfway closed, and you just come in and connect all that hair to the side like you just see me do. I'm just connecting it to my baseline there. It's blending in nicely, and I'm just working my way down back, just being sure to pull it out to the baseline and then connect it nicely. And here for the fringe, I'm gonna bring this hair down and I'm gonna give it a nice little pitched angle. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and do the same thing that we just did on the other side. Pulling it all over here. And again, same thing, right in front of the ear. We're gonna section that out, get that out of there, preserve that hair. I'm gonna grab my clipper comb again. Clipper's halfway open. There's my baseline, pull it out to the baseline. I'm just gonna connect it all together here. Okay, so from that point, I'm gonna take this fringe and I'm gonna add that slight drop that we did on the other side. Cool. All right, so the top is cut. That's the length. I'm comfortable with it. One thing I'm gonna do before I start blending and drying this up and adding the detail work onto it, I'm just gonna check and make sure that I don't have a corner in this. When I say a corner, typically when you're cutting square the way we do, there likes to be a corner right here along the parietal ridge. So I'll pull this up and you can see it right there. And I like to get that corner out of there. And I'm just softly rounding it out. Do the same thing here. There's that corner. You can see it right there. That's the corner that we're trying to get rid of. Okay, cool. And I like to add texture to these hawks. So one thing that you can do is you can get yourself simulated point cutting shears and just pick up the hair and just from right to left, same thing, just the tops. I'm adding texture in with these shears here. And now I'm working my way down my left side. Cool. Texture's been added in. This cut's starting to take shape. I'm gonna shorten this fringe just a little bit. So the cut's starting to take shape. I'm gonna get me some heat protection. I'm gonna blow dry this all out real good. Using a vent brush and blow dryer, I'm gonna blow dry this all out really good. once I got this all blow dried up, I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna just do what we call polishing work. I'm gonna texturize the sides up real nice, and I'm gonna add some nice line work to make all these lines pop, and then we'll add some product to it. So I'm just starting here on my left side, and I like a lot of the times you're gonna see me with these focusing on where the top hair connects into the baseline of the hawk that we built. So just really wanna make sure that is all blending together real good. Okay, same thing over here on this side. Okay, so once we get all the texturizing blending done, then I'm gonna start to add the detail work that we talked about earlier. Just kind of cleaning up, making these lines pop out. See a little dark spot I'm gonna work on. This is the time that you wanna take to get any little discrepancies and blemishes worked out. If the fringe is feeling like it's still too long for you, adjust it. That's the cool thing about the way that we cut this, is if you feel like components are too long, you can just simply adjust them. Like, I still don't feel super good about that fringe length, so I'm just gonna bump it down a little bit. So I'll just come in here. Again, I'm gonna take off just a little bit more because I want that fringe to still be nice and prominent, but I don't want it to be too much as well. Because again, these are practical, real haircuts. You don't want to give your client something that they just can't do when they're not here. Feel good about that length. All right, next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna grab my trimmer and just really highlight these areas here on the back, specifically where the ducktail ties in. This will really make your hawk pop out great, and that's just kind of bringing it up just a little bit into the fade there. I'm gonna do the same thing right here on this side. Cool. I like to take my foil shaver and clean up this area, and I'm really just hitting the bottom of the fade with my foil shaver. This really will help kind of stretch the gradients of the fade doing this. Awesome. Again, back to my detail work. I like to bolden this line up real good. And the same thing over here on this side. Bolden that line up really good. Cool. All right, so from that point forward, this cut is basically done. Just need some product to get styled up, and I'll go over that with you guys right now. For him, I'm gonna use a matte finish pomade to really highlight the texture that we put into this. I'm starting from the back, the roots to the top of the hair, like you see me doing here. I'm just gonna really use my fingers to kind of showcase the texture that we have created. Just working my way back here again with my fingers, showcasing all that texture in the back of the hawk. And that, the skin faded Euro hawk, I'm just gonna dust them off real quick. Make sure you don't let your client leave with hair all over their face. Okay, and from there, we're just gonna shave up his neck. He will be good to go. Get some aftershave. All right, thank you again for watching video number 4. If you like what you've seen today, please like, comment, subscribe. And please, again, if you see something you like or want us to do, leave it in the comments below. We'll try to make it happen. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one.